Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into an incredible ancient song, a powerful story that you'll find in Psalm 105. It's really a history lesson set to music, all about God's unwavering, never-failing faithfulness to his people. And as we're about to see, this epic story has so much to say to our lives right here, right now. So let's just start with this big question. How can a song written thousands of years ago actually prove that God is faithful to you today? Well, that's what we're going to unpack, because this psalm isn't just a dusty old history text. It's a living, breathing testimony to the very character of God. Okay, let's get into it. You see, this entire psalm is built on one foundational idea. It's a call to remember. The psalmist is basically screaming from the rooftops that actively recalling what God has done, well, it isn't just a nice thought. It is the very foundation of our worship. And here it is, right in verse 5, a direct command. Remember his marvelous works that he hath done, his wonders, and the judgments of his mouth. So you hear that? This isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a spiritual discipline, a key to strengthening our faith when we're facing the challenges of today. You know, the psalm kicks off right from verse 1 with this rapid-fire list of commands. It says, give thanks, call upon his name, and, this is so important, make known his deeds. This tells us right from the get-go that our faith was never meant to be a quiet, private secret. It's designed to be a public declaration. So where does all this remembering lead us? Well, it takes us right to the heart of the story, which is an unbreakable promise, a covenant that God made, a promise that he would never, ever break. This is the engine that drives this entire incredible narrative. And this just shows you how incredibly reliable that promise was. It wasn't a fleeting thought. No, it was made to Abraham. Then it was confirmed with an oath to his son, Isaac. And then it was established as a foundational law for his grandson, Jacob. It's like this golden chain of faithfulness passed down from one generation to the next. And here's the specific promise, right from Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. God says, I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. Now, here's why that matters for us. Just as God was so faithful to this very specific physical promise, we can be absolutely certain that he is just as faithful to the new covenant promises he's made to us through Jesus. And you know, God's faithfulness wasn't just some far-off someday kind of thing. It was for the here and now. Even when the patriarchs were just this tiny nomadic family, totally vulnerable, wandering as strangers in a land that wasn't theirs, God was their fierce protector. He even stood up to powerful kings for them, showing us that our true security is in him, not in our own strength or numbers. But this is where the story takes a really powerful turn, because God's faithfulness doesn't mean we'll never suffer. And the story of Joseph becomes this perfect example of God's sovereign plan working out perfectly, even through unimaginable pain and betrayal. Just think about this perspective for a second. Joseph's brothers, out of pure jealousy, sold him into slavery, a horrible, sinful act. But what does the psalmist say? He says God sent him. Wow. That shows us that even through the worst, most evil actions of people, God is weaving his beautiful plan of redemption. And let's be clear, Joseph's suffering was real. It was agonizing. The scripture says his feet were hurt with fetters, that he was laid in iron. But notice that last phrase, the word of the Lord tried him. That means God's promise to Joseph tested him. It refined him. It proved his faith was genuine through years of hardship, long before he was ever promoted. And this is the triumphant conclusion from Joseph himself. Years later, he's face to face with the very brothers who betrayed him, and he says, Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. This is a bedrock truth for every single believer. Our God can take what was meant to destroy us and turn it into something good for his glory. So, from Joseph's personal story, the camera kind of pulls back and we get to the main event, God's mighty, powerful rescue of the entire nation of Israel from slavery in Egypt. And this wasn't just a quiet escape. It was a massive demonstration of God's absolute authority over every power on earth. The plagues weren't just random freak disasters. The psalm calls them God's signs and wonders. Each one was a direct, calculated judgment against the false gods of Egypt. Each plague was designed to show Pharaoh and the world the supreme, unmatched power of the one true God, the Lord. And listen to the incredible details of the Exodus in this verse. God didn't just free them, He brought them out loaded with silver and gold. And miraculously, it says there was not one feeble person among their tribes. Not one. That just shows that when God calls you on a journey, He provides everything you need to make. And in the wilderness, God's amazing provision just kept on coming. He gave them a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He gave them manna to eat, bread from heaven, and water from a rock. But you see, all of these physical things were pictures, pointing to a deeper spiritual reality. Jesus is our true guide. He is the real bread of life, and He is the source of living water that truly satisfies our souls. In fact, the Apostle Paul tells us that the spiritual rock they drank from was Christ. So, after walking through this incredible history of God's faithfulness, the spotlight turns to us. What is our response supposed to be? God's unwavering faithfulness, proven over centuries, absolutely demands a response from us today. So, what do we do with all this? Well, the psalm gives us a roadmap. 4 practical things. First, we've got to publicly declare His deeds, tell our story. Second, we have to intentionally remember His faithfulness, just like the psalm says. Third, we trust His sovereign plan, even when it's hard, like it was for Joseph. And fourth, all of this leads to a life of grateful obedience, not out of duty, but out of pure love for all He's done. And this is the ultimate why. Why did God do all of this? The final verses spell it out. For He remembered His holy promise. He saved them and brought them into the land so that they might be a people who joyfully follow His ways. You see, God's redemption always has a purpose, a transformed life of praise and obedience. And that leaves us with this final thought. This whole psalm begins with a command to remember. So as you go about your week, I want to leave you with this question. How will you intentionally remember God's marvelous works, both the ones you read in Scripture and the ones He has done in your own life? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. This devotional was brought to you by the You Need Faith in Jesus team.